It's great to see all of you. I love this gallery view, to feel like one's not alone on the other side of a screen, but it doesn't mean you have to turn on your camera if you're feeling uncomfortable with that. Those of you I can see, I'm really happy to see. My name is Hanli Prinsloo, and I am a freediver and ocean conservationist based in Cape Town in South Africa. Joining me today in hosting this session is my friend and colleague Cyndi Mendoza, who's also our development manager at I Am Water, and I'm going to share a little bit about her work as we go through. So my story is that I started off my ocean journey as a competitive freediver, which was wonderful because I learned so much about my own body. I learned so much about the ocean. I learned so much about the beauty of our ocean. And more than anything, I really got to understand how much this ocean immersion can mean for a person, and the privilege of diving around the world with incredible creatures and beautiful ocean spheres in me really ignited that wanting to share that with others, which initially I did as a freediving instructor, and then realized that's not rewarding enough. Coming back to South Africa, for those of you who have been to South Africa, you will know that we are still a very divided country, and we are divided more than anything when it comes to access to nature and water. So you might know that in apartheid times, beaches and the ocean, many ocean spaces and even public pools were whites only here in South Africa. So that meant that the majority of our population historically hasn't had access to the ocean. And this, of course, embeds in it a deep-rooted fear, because there's generations of people with no knowledge or experience of the ocean. And after my travels exploring the world freediving, this to me was the most heartbreaking and appalling realization, because it's one of those things, you know, growing up as a privileged white South African, but when you see it coming back through that lens of access to the ocean, it really, really blew my mind. And this was, around 2008, 2009, this is what really grew in me. And it was kind of at the peak of my freediving career as well. And just realized that these records mean nothing if there's such a lack of access to the ocean. So I started I Am Water Ocean Conservation in 2010 as a vehicle to facilitate ocean experiences for South Africans who haven't had experience for the ocean. So for me, it was very clear from the beginning what the vision of the organization would be and what we want to achieve. And that is greater access to the ocean for more people who historically haven't had that access. Now, that feels very clear in one's mind, but then it's like, well, how do I take, in particular working with youth, people who can't swim and have a fear of the ocean, to one, get into the water, two, do it in a safe way, and then three, have a transformational experience. There was like all these different things to overcome. As a freediving instructor, I knew how to keep people safe, but I wasn't that used to working with children. So it was really around building programs and methodology into the organization. And so one of the things I learned very early on is that I can have a certain niche knowledge, but I definitely cannot have all the knowledge for building an organization. So it was first when being joined by a bunch of different people with different skill sets that my vision grew into an organization that can actually affect change. I think that's something really valuable to realize as a founder or a passion or vision driven person, is how you build this vision is definitely through others, and to surround yourself with people who disagree with you, and with people who challenge you, and with people who say, I think there's a better way of doing this, let's think about this. And I think since 2010, when we started I Am Water, until today, a lot of that has happened. So at the moment, I Am Water, our focus in South Africa is our Ocean Guardians program, where we work directly with the schools. We realize working with the schools is better. We bring kids out of school to our programs on the beach, as opposed to working in after-school programs, when the first thing that happens when you work after school is you lose the girls, because they're supposed to help in different ways in the home and do things like that. So working directly with the schools, we have a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Education in South Africa, so that we can get children to come on our programs as part of their curriculum. Our program right now is a 2-day program directly with grade 7s. We bring the whole grade 7 class. On the first day, they're in a tidal pool, so they get to learn in a safe space. And we start the day with breathing exercises and mindfulness and meditation. And then we go into some learning about the ecosystem and learning about the actual ocean they're going to explore. And then we split the group into 3, because this whole thing about how do you work with children that cannot swim and keep them safe, it's about numbers of coaches to numbers of children. So we split the kids into groups of 3, and then one group goes and snorkels, one group does rocky shore exploration, one group does nature walk and beach cleanup. And then after they've cycled through all 3 of those groups, so all the kids have all the experiences, we bring them back together, we have a nutritious lunch, and then we do a sharing circle where we talk about what did you just experience, what was your highlight, what was your greatest challenge. And when you do the sharing circle, you cry. It is the most amazing thing to hear these stories of transformation when the children share them. So that's our Ocean Guardians programs. To date, we've worked with over 6,000 kids, and we've trained over 100 coaches, 50 of which are active coaches working with our programs. And then we have a core team of about 6 people here in Cape Town. So for us, what makes sense is to train coaches who can come and deliver the work as we have seasons when the projects are very busy. So when you get to a place like that, where you feel like we have our program, we know how to create this experience that will hopefully have this transformational experience, the next question is, are we really making a difference? Because you don't just want to be doing the work because you think it's a good idea or because it feels good somehow, or you're like, I'm working in an ocean sphere and I feel good about myself because I'm doing some kind of social upliftment work. You really want to ask the hard questions of, is this the right way to do it? Is this the right thing for this community? And are we actually having impact? And not just answering that question for yourself, you also have to be answering it for your donors, for your stakeholders, for the communities, for the Department of Education, whoever your different stakeholders are, you need to know that you have those answers. And I think that earlier on in one's journey, whether it's as an individual creating impact or an organization, you want to start asking those questions as early on as you can. Finding the answers to those questions are harder. So for us at I Am Water, we knew from a lot of the data we were collecting that this is having an impact, this is working, but we really wanted to dig deeper into that and see in exactly what way is it working. And this is when we brought on Cyndi, who has a master's degree in monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And if you find someone like Cyndi, don't ever let them go, because that knowledge is unbelievable to be able to say, yes, this is what we're doing, and this is how it's working. So the other thing that as an organization starts maturing, the question is, well, what does scale look like for you? How are you going to do more of what you do? And something I would always warn people about is having that scale conversation too early can really become a problem, because you can actually grow too fast and overpromise and start under-delivering or completely burn out. So I think I would always rather say, do something really well in a small way. And then when you really feel you've got your feet under you, then you start thinking about scale. We've been through about 3 iterations through the history of I Am Water the last 11 years, where we've scaled and scaled back and scaled and scaled back. And every time in that decision to scale back, it's almost been the death of the organization. So I would always say, scale slowly and carefully, and do it for the right reasons. So we're in a position now where we are a more mature organization, and we're talking about both impact and scale. What scale looks like for us is that we've been working on an ocean curriculum that we can help the Department of Education get into schools other than just the schools we work with directly. So that's fantastic, because that means scale without actually getting much bigger as an organization. Another one is an alumni program where we get the children who've gone through our Ocean Guardians 2-day program to reconnect with us and be able to come back and deepen their knowledge and their experience of the ocean. And then a third way, and if you are within this field somewhere in the world, please do reach out to us at some point. We're looking at working with an alliance of global organizations who want to deliver the same kind of work and see how we can support both in sharing methodology and training, but also sharing this evaluation and knowledge and learning, where we can actually all, in a way, benefit from each other's evaluations and say, there are so many of us achieving this around the world. It really does work. So that's those 3 things for us: curriculum, alumni, and open sourcing a kind of alliance where we work together. So that's a little bit about I Am Water and where we're at and what's happened in the last 11 years. And now diving deeper into the impact side of things. Yeah, Cindy's going to go through with you on that. And this is really the part I would say, if you're going to take notes of this, because this is like the most, I think for me, one of the hardest things for organizations to get right. And also to understand why we want to measure our impact. As I was saying before, that it's not just because it's something that's required from donors, that it's really something that comes from the inside of the organization to say, we really want to be having impact. Otherwise, why are we doing this? Otherwise, I could rather go work with an organization who has this figured out, right? So really, don't be afraid of asking those difficult questions. So Cyndi, handing over to you, share a little bit with us about, the impact and evaluation side.
Hi, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today. Hanli, thanks for doing a brilliant intro into I Am Water. So as Hanli mentioned, my name is Cyndi Mendoza and I'm the development manager. And my background is really in social development and social justice. And I love data and really understanding what data can tell us about our programs, about the people that we work with, about how we can improve and ultimately make a better world. So monitoring, evaluation, and learning is really about identifying and challenging things that are currently being used, whether it's within your program or within the field, and really trying to look at what does best practice look like and how, as an organization, can we get there if we're not already there. And then ultimately, it's about providing a platform to learn. I really believe in the L part of monitoring and evaluation because it's really about learning and having good monitoring, evaluation, and learning. As I said, if you have good monitoring, evaluation, and learning, then that just means that we're creating a better world. So whatever it is that you're trying to change. So if you're trying to improve environmental outcomes, if you're trying to improve farmers' rights, if you have good MEL, then it just means that you'll be able to do more of this, which is really, really important. So just from our side, just a little bit of like a little icebreaker is, I'm sure if we look in the room, I see that there's lots of people here. Some of us love coffee, while some of us might like tea. And when someone enters your home, or when you're inviting for someone to this, you usually ask them, right? You don't just serve them a cup of coffee or serve them a cup of tea without really asking them, which one do you like? You even get down to other questions like asking them, do you take one sugar? Do you take two sugars? Do you like milk? So it's a really silly example, but when you think about data and when you think about your organizations and the change that you're trying to create, this is the type of information that is really, really useful to ensure that you're really making that change that you want to make. And yeah, just to talk a little bit about the terminology, to break it down, I think sometimes it can be there's a lot of jargon, and I want to stay away from that and keep it as simple as possible. But just to kind of explain like the monitoring side, this happens it's ongoing collection of information. And as an organization, you will be doing a lot of the M. Everyone always speaks about evaluating your program, showing the impact, but you will be doing a lot of the M. And that's really, really important because it gives you a lot of information that you can make changes as you go along within your program. And then the evaluation, that happens less frequently. So that is something that's focused on. You would do it in maybe at the end of your program or after a couple of years, really trying to look at the merit to see, has your program been successful in achieving its outcomes? So I just thought I'd explain those two differences before we go ahead. So why do I emphasize on the M? I'm just going to give you guys a few tips. So when you walk away from this, you can really start to think about in the change that you want to create, what are some things to consider? So one of the important things is tracking the people that come to your program. So do you take attendance? Do you know who these people are? What are their names? How old are they? Where do they come from? How often do they come to your program? This is really important to understand maybe why they're coming to your program, what their needs are, or how you can adapt your program to better suit them. So for instance, if you know that you have if we're looking at gender, for instance, maybe if you have more females in your program, considering the time that you're offering whatever you're offering. As Hanli mentioned, we really focus at working with schools because we know that in the South African context, a lot of girls have responsibilities in the after school and might not attend our programs, and we find that really important. So yes, I think if you're going to do it, the first step is to track who's coming to your program, find out all the information about them, and then really understand how often they're coming. And also, it's a really good indication of program quality. So if you notice that people stop coming to your program, whether it's your participants or your coaches, it could also be an indication that something is going on. It could be maybe a challenge that they're facing. It could be a challenge facing that community. So for instance, at I Am Water, just to give you a bit of context, we haven't had traditional programming. And what this would tell you, if you looked a little bit further, is the Department of Education has stopped allowing schools to do these extracurricular activities. So attendance is a bit an indication of not just them coming to your program, but also what's going on with participants, with the stakeholders that you're working with, whether it be parents or youth. It can get you to ask those questions. And then a really big tip before I dive a little bit into what we do in I Am Water specifically is really look at what universities are around you, what master students are around you with wherever you're operating in. These universities have resources, they want to engage in communities, and as organizations, we have something to offer them. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship that you can form. And also they have capacity that you might not have, or, in terms of resources, time, and really understanding what you guys need to get started. So I think that would be my second tip, is to really identify who can help you find out more about the information that you've already collected or information that you want to collect. So what do we do at I Am Water? As I said, we really focus on the M. So how do we do this? We do take attendance of our learners, and this year in the upcoming season, we're really going to focus on collecting more data on them, like demographic data. I'll find out a little bit more about their home, and this helps us understand how different kids, both boys and girls, experience our programs differently. So that's something that we're going to work on this year. We also do reports. So we do online reports with Google Forms. It's free, it's online. We've learned to simplify them for our coaches, or if you have teachers or staff that are implementing. It's quick feedback. It's accessible online. So if you want to do paper-based, you can do that and then input it online, and everybody could see what's happening. And it even creates dashboards for you. And you could then use an Excel function where you export the information. And this is where you would be able to get university students or people that can manipulate the data a little bit more, help you understand what you can learn from that. We also do observation reports. This is really important with looking at quality of your program. So as Hanli mentioned, it's really important for us at I Am Water that we make sure that the people that attend our program have an excellent service. And that comes down to everything. So we want them to have the best equipment. We want them to have fun and engaging coaches. We want them to have a safe environment. So by creating these observation reports, we're able to go and see, are we actually providing this? Particularly with the kids that we work with, they might not know how to swim. So making sure that we provide a safe environment is really important for creating that connection to nature. So these are ways that we kind of check and monitor if that's actually happening. And then the last thing that we do is like informal focus groups. So, everyone hears focus groups and they have like all of these questions and it's very structured, but it can also happen in a natural way. So at the end of the day, our coaches actually lead this. So they've built a relationship with the kids. They ask them key questions where we're able to quickly learn, did the kids learn something? Did the kids have fun? These are some of the things that we look at within I Am Water. So just to talk a little bit about what we measure, if you're looking at environmental education programs, or if you're looking specifically, nature-based programs or with ocean-related programs, for us, I would say that the top, I'll mention three. The top three for us are, do the kids have a connection and appreciation with the ocean? So Hanli would have mentioned they have fears, generational fears that they're overcoming. So we want to make sure that through the experience that we're providing, they're able to overcome that. And that's something that we track. And we track it by asking it before and after they attend our program. We also look, did they learn? Are they actually taking in the information that we're sharing about our oceans? Which is really important, because if people don't have the information and the knowledge, then it's really difficult for them to change their behavior and to protect our environment, to live a healthier life, which are all the things that are really important to us at I Am Water. And then the last one that I'll focus on is really looking at shifting their concern for the environment. So not only their knowledge about the environment and how they relate to it, but like, are they more concerned about the environment? Will they actually change their behavior? Those are some of the things that we look at I Am Water. So a lot of you guys might be asking yourselves, how do we look at this information? And sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by the amount of tools that are out there. I'm sure you guys have looked for surveys and looked for so many things. And I'm just going to list a few, and I know that they're going to be available on the website. But there's a wonderful tool that's called Assessing Connection to Nature, which has really helped us and looking at several tools that we will look at. And what's really great about that document, which we'll share with you guys, so don't worry, is that it looks at age. So are you with the little ones, and what would be appropriate for them? So asking them a 20-page survey isn't going to work. It doesn't even work with youth. We've actually worked at decreasing ours and making it fun and including pictures. So yeah, that's a little bit about that. So I'll share that with you guys, which has a couple of tools. But as I was mentioning with the institution, is we are actually partnering with a university in the States to do an evaluation on our program. So as Hanli mentioned, the last couple of years, we've really focused on our flagship program, and we've started to collect data. So now we're at a point where we really want to explore and ask ourselves, what areas, I mentioned the areas that we're really interested in knowing about. So we want to know, are we actually making a difference in those areas? And if so, what can we do to make even more of a difference? And if not, what can we tweak in our program so that we can make more of a difference? I think oftentimes we undersell what we do. So we could actually be contributing to other areas that we might not have thought about. And that's totally okay. And that's kind of why it's important to do evaluations and to work with evaluators, even though I'm an in-house person, is having a team come in and looking at our program from an objective perspective and giving us feedback, and then incorporating that so that we can ultimately keep getting better and providing more transformational ocean experiences. And then also being able to share what we learn with other organizations. That's kind of what our aims are for the next couple of years. And I think just to end, don't forget to do fun things, especially if you're working with young people. So if we would have been in person now, I would have done a human survey where I would have drawn a line, and I would have said, if you like coffee, please stand to your right. And if you like tea, please stand to your left. So when thinking about collecting information, you don't necessarily have to do it in a paper-based survey. There's fun and creative ways of doing it. We could have gotten a picture drawn, which you guys would probably see in your screen. We have an illustrator who's just mind mapping what we've talked about today. And you can have your young people do this. So what did you learn today? Can you draw for me what you've learned today? Can you write a letter to just describe how it felt like to be in the ocean? So just think about that. I think when you think about monitoring, evaluation, and learning, is that there is fun and creative ways of doing it and getting people really excited to learn about the information. And I think just to close off is make sure that you share what you learn with your staff, with your participants, with everyone, so that it's actually useful information, not only for the program, but for everyone that's involved. I think at this point, we'll take any questions if you have any.
So just so you guys know, we are aware that we're running over a bit. So if you do have to dash, we understand. We will share some stuff on the website, like Cyndi said. So if you have to go, that's fine. If you can stay, please stay. We're staying. And if you have some questions, please feel free to ask. I think one last thing I'd like to say before those who have to run before the Q&A. I think we've been speaking a lot to organizational stuff. I think for those of you who are not in an organization and more looking at how you can create change and, you know, be an activist outside of an organization, I think one of my tips would really be is to see where there are organizations you can align with, because there really is a kind of enthusiasm that comes with that kind of alignment. And I would always, something I've really learned is that if you are thinking, maybe I'll start my own organization, look around and see if there are others who are really doing what you believe in, and if you can support them and work with them. The ocean conservation sphere is really dense. There are a lot of organizations and a lot of small organizations. And I think one of the greatest things we can do right now is to collaborate and to collaborate well. So I think there's definitely something within that, like see how, if you are in an organization, how you can collaborate and collaborate well with other organizations. And if you're an individual, how you can support an organization or be involved in one that is doing exactly what you want to do. And if you see a gap and you feel like this really needs to be done, then surround yourself with the right people so you can get it done properly. If there really is a gap in what you want to do, and reach out to people for advice and mentorship and stuff like that. So if you're an earlier person in your career as an ocean activist, those are just a few things that I would like to mention. As an organization, lots of fun work to do, as you know, if you're running an organization. So yeah, thanks guys for joining us from Cyndi and I. If you're ever in Cape Town, come and visit us, and make sure amongst those of you who are still on here, find Louise Plantin, and see if you can see her beautiful illustration. Louise, if you want to, yes, Louise is screen sharing. You can see her beautiful mind map of our session together and our conversation. Thank you, Louise. It's always so beautiful to see your work. So if anyone has any specific questions you'd like to ask Cyndi or I, please do go ahead in the chat box. We are watching the chat box, but we also understand if you have to dash and you don't have time to. And thank you, Louise, for this illustration. It is beautiful. Cyndi, she captured you. I love data. That's awesome. For sure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been so fun to speak to you about I Am Water and our passion for the ocean. And what an important time, right, for everybody to be raising their voices for the ocean. We definitely need to do it loud enough that the G7 around the corner from those of you in Cornwall can hear us. And like Cyndi said, don't be intimidated by these questions around impact. I just think it's really important to think about it. Along with exposing the kids to the ocean in a safe way, do you also expose them to the damages we do to the ocean? And is that a part of the program? Yes, absolutely. We do the beach. So in our presentation at the beginning of our program, we share with them, part of the presentation is challenges facing our ocean. It's the gifts the ocean give us. And then one of the chapters we go through is challenges facing our ocean. And we talk about that quite in depth. And then in the beach cleanup, that becomes quite clear to them as well when we go into the pollution side of things. Yeah. How would you sum up your career in 3 words? Oh, that's a really good one, Eleanor. Thanks. I guess the way I'm going to get out of that question is to say I'll sum up my career in I am water. That's 3 words. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So I Am Water Foundation, we are on social media, and please do come and visit us in South Africa. Yes, partnering with any UK organizations to encourage diversity. That is such a good question. When we're starting in the early days of this alliance that we're building, and so we definitely want to work with existing organizations in the UK, exactly for the reason you've mentioned there. And if any of you are part of or know of organizations who are doing similar work that you think would align with us, then please do reach out to Cyndi or myself. We're Hanli at iamwaterfoundation.org and Cyndi at iamwaterfoundation.org. And the website is iamwaterfoundation.org. So please feel free to reach out to us about this alliance of organizations. Yeah, please do come and visit us in Cape Town. Our office has a beautiful sea view. We have some hot desks, so you can come and visit. Have a coffee or tea. Cyndi will ask you when you arrive, and then you can come and hang out and work with us. Cyndi, is there anything else you want to share just as people are heading out?
No, yeah, it was great to be with you guys today, and please feel free to reach out to us, like whether, as Hanli mentioned, if you're like an individual looking at how do I, get started, where do I go, or if we know of any organizations, please feel free to just reach out to us. Do you have any tips on successful collaboration
from those who would rather compete to dominate the space? You know, I think if you come across an organization who has that mindset, then they're probably not in a place where they would want to collaborate. And I would say it's probably not going to be a pleasant experience for you. There are a lot of open-minded, open-hearted, like-minded organizations. Spend your energy where it's going to, you know, work for you and actually have an impact, because some collaborations, you know, like I was saying earlier, collaborations that make sense, you know, I think that that's really important. Collaborating for the sake of collaborating isn't always the right thing. So really try and find like-minded organizations who you feel respect, you know, what you're doing as well. Yeah, or try and build a relationship, you know, go to when they invite public to their, whatever it is they do, see if you can build a relationship, because oftentimes there is a way to build a relationship even despite that. Do you feel that there is a well-balanced representation across the South African population engaging in the organization? Engaging in the organization, yes. Engaging in the ocean, no. But in our organization, we work really hard to have a well-balanced representation. Yeah, you did not see that tonight. As a white South African, and Cyndi is an amazing US Latina. But within our organization, we are very, very specific with how we represent South Africa. I mean, Cyndi and I are proud to represent what we represent. Sorry, Cyndi, if I made that sound weird. But I mean, within our organization, there's a lot of diversity, and we work hard on that. How does one become a coach at I Am Water? So our coaching program, every few months, we get in touch with everybody who's emailed us, who have the right kind of credentials, and then we run trainings here in Cape Town for the coaches. And within our coaching community, we also work hard at that kind of representation. So yeah, you're welcome to drop us an email, Anneli. Okay, those of you who have to go, please don't feel bad about going. We're just hanging out here if anybody has questions. So yeah, thanks, Jose. We look forward to seeing you in Cape Town soon. Awesome. And Louise, your picture is so beautiful. We can't wait to share it after this. Is it working? I'll evaluate that. So awesome. I'm going to take a photo. It's so cool. Let's see if there were any other questions dropping in. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, no, we really love what we do. You've got our email addresses. Reach out to us if you have any more questions. And yeah, Cyndi?
No, I think that's it. If people, they could always reach out if you think of a question at a later time, which sometimes happens, then you guys can just reach out to us.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and for sticking around. We look forward to being in touch. And thank you, Louise, for capturing so beautifully what we've been talking about. We look forward to sharing your artwork. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.